Hello, this is Developmental Psychology, and we are looking at prenatal development, part 3. So let's talk about the genotype environmental interactions that we see. So we're looking at the effects of environment on genetically different individuals. So we're looking at a covariance between the genotype and the environment. We're looking at the correlations there, okay? And we have something called passive correlations, reactive, also known as evocative correlation, and we have active correlation. Passive correlations are when parents pass on their genes to their own expression of an environment that they provide that encourages that trait that they value in themselves. Okay? So if you have musical, it's an example, you have musical parents, both are very musical, they're likely to provide a musical environment. Thinking, perhaps rightly, not necessarily, that the child may have some genetics associated with that. In any event, they provide an environment that's rich in musical expression. Yeah. Child doesn't control that. That's why we call it a passive correlation. Child does not have any connection to that. Parents provide that. The next one is called reactive or evocative correlation. And this is when children with different genetic makeups cause different reactions from the parents. So parents who are not musically inclined may provide a especially musically enriched environment as they react to what the child wants. So they're reacting, the child is evoking environmental changes in opportunities based on the expression of interests by the child. And then the last one is an active correlation. These are the children select their own experiences connected to their own genetics. So a shy child may choose solitary activities. Okay? They are actively creating their own environments. Okay? Okay. This is what you see when you have identical twins who are raised apart, who end up in active correlation choosing the same kinds of occupations or avocations as hobbies, and lots of other things as well. It's really interesting. Okay, so we have, let's talk about twins for a minute. We have fraternal twins, also known as dizygotic, which means two separate eggs are ovulated and fertilized. And so obviously these can be the same gender or different genders. The Bush girls are dizygotic or fraternal twins. And for dizygotic twins are much more common than identical twins, also called monozygotic twins, where a single egg is fertilized but dividing cells break into two different groups and develop into two genetically identical individuals. And we could call these people clones. They are clones. So if you say, are we cloning anyone? Yeah, well, we are not actively cloning, but we have clones among us. Lots and lots of people are delaying childbirth, which increases the chance of twins being born, also because the older a female is, the more she may have fertility issues and receive fertility treatment, including some treatments which might increase the risk of having twins. When twins are born, there's a higher cost involved. Yes, there's lots of child rearing costs involved. It's a what we hope. I can't imagine how the woman in California who had 8 births at once, who already had 6 children, at least, say, I think 10 years, 8 years older. Gosh almighty, can you imagine? I can't imagine. Apparently they're all doing okay. If you look at the preterm birth rates, so babies born before full term, it's most decidedly in the South, particularly Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, along with Puerto Rico. Lots and lots of preterm birth. If you look at in-utero deaths, the causes are many, but usually hemorrhaging is number one. If you look at maternal mortality rates, this is a Southern Asian problem, but mostly an African problem. Not North African, but below North African countries like Egypt and Libya and so on. Very definitely an African problem for a variety of reasons, illnesses and waterborne illnesses and insect-borne illnesses and so on, and malnutrition. In terms of infant mortality rates, that's also a southern problem with some Ohio Valley input and Alaska and even Maine, but Mississippi and Alabama are the two states with the highest infant mortality rates. So when we are seeing right after fertilization, the rapid cell growth, the rapid cleavage divisions in cells within what we call the zygote, after about 5 days, we call it a blastocyst. So generally we call it a blastocyst. We then watch to see an implantation. We hope that it goes well. I'm amazed that any babies are ever born. There's so many things that can go wrong, but apparently the system is relatively robust. So when the blastocyst implants after about 6 days into the wall of the uterus, it begins to use enzymes to metabolize, catabolize the wall of the uterus. It breaks the endometrial wall and digests it. It begins to make connections, form blood vessels, and this is the partly digested endometrial wall that nourishes the blastocyst for about a week, and then the blood vessels begin. Now, there can be implantation anywhere other than in the uterine wall, and when that happens, we call them ectopic pregnancies, and those have to be discovered pretty quickly, particularly if they're in a place that can cause hemorrhaging and even death of the mother, like in the fallopian tube. Now, the babies, I'll say baby, the ectopic pregnancies are not viable. It is not possible to reimplant those in the uterus. Those have to be removed surgically to prevent the death of the mom. Those fertilized and somewhat growing humans won't survive. There's no way to have them survive. You may know that this isn't always something that's easy to find. They will do an ultrasound if the mother has significant abdominal discomfort, and we want to see where that might be. But it could be anywhere. Abdominal wall. It could be outside the uterus. It could be just about anywhere in that whole place. Usually it's fallopian tubes. We have been able to trace every cell grouping from the blastocyst to babies that are born full term. Every cell grouping to see what becomes what. Okay? And you can look at a cross-section that I provided for you in a photo in, let's see, that's 63, I think. Slide 63. You can look at where the spinal cord is, where the skin is, the digestive tract. None of it looks like that, but it is very precisely located. See, you can see where the brain is. And you can then go through day by day by day by day and look at what everything then becomes as cells continue to find their place and to cleave and to produce more and more and more cells at a very, very, very rapid rate. It's startling. Within the brain, we see very rapid neuron growth and connections between the neurons, nerve cells, and we see a culling out of inefficient or unused neural pathways, they are eliminated. There are enzymes that do that in our brain. And then the ones that are used become reinforced. Yeah. And so overall, neural density, the number of neurons per unit volume of brain tissue, increases dramatically. And so density increases, right? That's what that means. But it's amazing how that process works. You get rid of the old ones and the unused ones, and you save the good ones and you reinforce them, and that's where our wonderful brains come from, in essence. And you can see the neural density from birth to 3 months to 15 months on a slide number 65. Now, I have another slide that depicts growth from 1 day all the way to 23 weeks. And this is, 23 days, not 23 weeks. And it is not quite to scale, but close. And you can see very quickly, for example, from day 18 to day 21, 3 days, there is a foot paddle that develops at approximately 18, it's between 17 and 18 actually, and then the toe rays are visible at 20. Startling acceleration of development. Startling. Okay. Within the womb, babies can hear, see, taste, feel. They can hear their mother's heartbeat. They can hear their mom's voice. They habituate to that. They become knowledgeable about what it is like to hear that tonality and that pace and so on. I want you to know there's absolutely no evidence whatsoever that classical music or any kind of music played up against or near the abdomen of a developing baby creates any difference in intelligence or any other measure. Although you can go on Amazon and find intravaginal speakers that you can put real close up to the baby. I don't understand, but anyway. Now, babies can taste mom's food, and there's some data that suggest that the baby may be drawn to that cuisine later in life. For example, if they were adopted out from that culture, they can see light, they can see dark, they can feel the walls of the uterus, they can feel their thumb when they suck it within the uterus. Within the amniotic sac. Talk for a minute about placenta. Placenta essentially is the part of it develops out of the endometrial wall that serves as a gas transfer structure and a nutrient transport structure, as well as waste excretion. It's an amazing thing. It's a temporary hormone producer of both estrogen, progesterone, and things. It's a barrier to certain illnesses. It is not a barrier to artificially produced substances, and so it's non-complete, incomplete, and non-selective. Yeah. Let's see. Some women, and I don't know what percentage, if you ask, they will save your placenta, and you can dry it and put it in tubes and little capsules and eat it. It's full of nutrients. I'm not sure that we have any information that that's useful, but when we come back, we're going to talk about labor in part 4.